Hello guys, welcome to a brand new episode of Son of a Gun. It's been a year since I had published the very first video of our channel and we have come a long way in such short time. We are about to hit 5k subscribers and I would like to thank each and every one of you for your unconditional love and support. Coming back to today's video, the matter of heavy crank is as old as the bullet legacy itself. If you haven't had the privilege of riding a stock heavy crank bullet, then I must say that you have missed out on all the fun. We will discuss the entire heavy crank concept and its evolution over the years, followed by a quick test ride of an 80s model bullet with fabricated heavy crank. So let's proceed to the video. First, we will discuss the technical aspect for the sake of those who aren't familiar. A crankshaft or a crank is a rotating shaft located inside the engine casing connected to the piston via connecting rod. Its basic function is to convert the linear motion of the piston to rotational motion and transfer the power generated onto the wheels. Moving forward, let's have a look at why there is so much of a fuss about this whole heavy crank thing. A heavy crank would mean something near 9 kilograms or more in weight. The following are some of the superior aspects of a heavy crank bullet over its light cranked sibling. First thing is the formidable thump. The name bullet is resonant with the muscular thump of the cast iron engine, which is rather prominent in a heavy crank model. It's almost impossible to detach one from the other. Point number 2, lesser vibrations. No matter how unique your bike would look, if the ride isn't smooth, the whole purpose is lost. On any given day, I would prefer to ride a heavy crank G2 or an early B1 than an 80s or 90s model. I used to own a 73, an 84 and a 90 and they would give so much of unpleasant vibes. I am one of those who like to ride the bullet like a Honda Activa. Point number 3. Can easily cruise in 20 to 25 km per hour speed in 4th gear without slipping the clutch and no knocking. The frequency of changing gears is also less. Like how I ride my 71 for example. I am guessing its crank weight to be 8.9 kilograms. I hardly use the first and second gears after takeoff. On wider roads, all I need is the 4th gear. This feature must be attributed to the higher momentum that the heavy crank can generate owing to its higher mass. Point number 4. Engine revolutions are less and this reduces the wear and tear. Point number 5. Hypothetically, you will get all the torque that the engine can produce at a lower RPM and this would give better pulling power. But thanks to the Japanese carburetors, I haven't personally experienced this as of yet, so I would rather not stress on this point. Being said that, let's now proceed to the two categories. Number 1, stock heavy crank and number 2, fabricated heavy crank. One of the salient features of a G2 is the company heavy crank, which is near 20 pounds or 9.3 kilograms roughly. It makes the ride amazingly smooth with very less vibrations and hiccups. I have photographic evidence of a 1969 B series which shows the crank weight as 8.9 kilograms. I am assuming that the transformation took place in the same year and carried on till 1973. An expert had told me that crank weight was less for those before 1957, which were essentially magneto-dynamo models. And there are a lot of grey areas in this matter too. After 1973, Enfield began reducing crank weight to 7.5 kilograms or so in order to increase fuel efficiency and acceleration, which really had killed all the fun if you ask me. They had reintroduced the heavy crank for a short period between 2004 and 2010, which came up to 10.5 kilograms roughly. That's the heaviest crank Enfield had ever made for a 350cc as far as I know. One thing I know for certain is that crank weight was between 7.5 to 7.8 kilograms from 1973 onwards up until 1980. Then came the medium crank models like the one we are gonna test ride in this video. I'm assuming an 8.2 kilogram crank weight during this period. It further reduced in the 90s, and I had personally observed my 90 model to have a 7.2 kilogram crank. I'm not claiming that all this information is entirely true, and that is why I request all of you to come up with your observations regarding this and prove me right or wrong, whatever the case may be. I had uploaded so many videos of stock heavy crank bullets in the channel, and you could have a look at these for a better understanding. Then comes the question of fabricated heavy crank, which is done by attaching metal plates onto the existing crank by welding in order to increase its weight. This is done extensively in Kerala, even though I have noticed some experts advising against this. Personally, I also feel that altering the true core of the engine isn't such a good idea, but I still have to explore into the topic. Today, we will have a look at a 1984 model bullet with a fabricated heavy crank and see how it would fare. This one belongs to my mechanic Mr. Hari, and ironically, the engine is quite noisy as a doctor apparently doesn't like the taste of his own medicine. After riding this otherwise perfect piece of machinery, I must admit that the fabricated crank kinda nails it. It's not as smooth as my 71, and I had to shift gears a bit more to my liking, but it was kinda charming. The owner says that he had only increased the crank weight by 500 grams, but it kinda does the trick. So I'm assuming that I could give some insight into the whole heavy crank scenario. Some people claim that the crank weight is 12 kilograms or 14 kilograms, Well, I'm happy to admit that I'm wrong if they could provide evidence to support their claim. I'm not talking about 500cc in here, as that's in some other league entirely. So guys, I'm gonna wind up the video now. Kindly post your valuable suggestions in the comment section. I'll be back with more informative videos. Till then, ride safe.